Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us at Intellectual Chocolate, where we have intelligent conversations with brilliant Black minds. My name is Kim Seabrooks, and I'm so excited to have with me today Mr. Abdul Kelly, who is the founder of Solving the Race Problem. Abdul has spent most of his adult working life working in the education sector in the public schools. He has a bachelor's degree in education from Millersville University, and he has a master's degree from George Mason University. Well, good evening. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Kim?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Thank you so much for doing this for us because I'm so excited. I feel that what you're doing is so important and it's so needed. And before I actually go into our interview, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, the Black Business School. That's theblackbusinessschool.com, theblackbusinessschool.com, where you can get financial literacy that will help you start your business today. So before I actually go into what you do as far as your organization and your workshops, for me, I know growing up, I did not hear a lot about the uh, Black issues, and I didn't hear a lot about racism and things like that. What I want to know from you, is that something that you heard while you were growing up? Is that part of what made you do what you're doing today?
It's a good question, and I wanted to start out to say peace to all of the listeners, the audience, and thank you, Kim, for having me on the platform. I really appreciate it.
You're
And
so
the good
welcome.
thing you shouted out the Black Business School. I'm a member of that too, so
Yeah, I
real
know.
good information on there. So,
Yes.
about your question as far as racism and the experiences growing up young, I always remember hearing messages from my parents that you can't do what Jimmy and Johnny do, which is essentially you can't do what your white counterparts can do. And although I was young and I didn't truly grasp what it was in a systematic concept like I do now, I
Mhm.
still was able to see those differences of how people are treated by race. So you can be very young and still see when things are not fair. Even
Yeah.
toddlers can recognize what is fair and what is not. So as I came into adulthood, I noticed a lot of the conversation would transition into work ethic. Well, if you work hard enough, you can outwork your racism, which I'm here to tell you that that's absolutely not true. As
Yeah.
many degrees as you want to get, as many status symbols and money and all of these other things that we attribute to success, you can still get those, but you're still a Black person living in
Yeah.
America in this day and time.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I feel you on that. You
Mhm.
know what? I wanted to find out because we had a great conversation when I called you, and I want to find out. I want you to tell the people about that first moment when you said, okay, I have to do something for the Black community.
I think that it reached a point where I thought about my purpose in life and the legacy that I want to leave behind. And will my legacy be defined by how many degrees I got or, all of these material things, or will it be defined by what I was able to contribute and give back to the very same people that built me up to where I am today?
Mhm.
So I reached a point where I thought about it and I said, this is what I need to do. This is my life's purpose. And I've been given all of the tools to accomplish these things.
Yeah.
So when you're asking, well, when I first um, got wind that that's what I was supposed to be doing, I think I came across some of Neely Fuller's work, and he basically described race as a system.
Mhm.
And I didn't see racism as a system, even if you break up the word racism. Ism
Yeah.
literally means systematic. So if you're breaking up the word racism, it is systematic. So once I got an understanding of that, it was a point where I laid down in my bed.
Mhm.
And the pillow I was laying on is manufactured in a company by somebody who's probably white, to cover up
Yeah.
with sheets that's also manufactured and distributed by a company that's white, to put my feet on the floor to get out of bed, for a
Yeah.
carpet or tile that's manufactured and accompanied by somebody white, to go
Yes.
walk into the bathroom to get a toothbrush,
Yeah.
to get toothpaste, to turn on your water. And that's when I realized that we are in a system that is completely dominated at all points and all factions. And once I realized that, I said, there's something that we need to do. And I think
Yeah.
that given everything that I was able to accomplish so far, I think that I have the ability to lead people in the right direction to start to solve the race problem.
Yeah, that is so commendable, especially because of how young you are. Because you told me that when we had our conversation. And I wanted to ask you about the incident that happened when you were in college. You said that you were talking to some people, and just go into that story a little bit.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, I am 27, and I was in college, and I hadn't come to the racial conclusions that I come to. I was going to a predominantly white institution. My high school was predominantly white, but once I entered into that collegiate space, I remember my roommate, and he was from Central Pennsylvania. For those of you that may or may not be familiar with Pennsylvania, is basically the south of the north. Some people call it Pennsyltucky. So he was from an area that real conservative, real white, right wing. Yeah. And we would have conversations, and every time it got political, he would say things that I wasn't able to combat. He would say things about the welfare state. He would say things about disparaging things about Obama, who was the president at the time. And I didn't have the ability to articulate my thoughts in an educated way to shut down the racist nonsense that he was spewing. Yeah. So it is no different than what Richard Spencer and other people are doing now, the pseudo-intellectual race theories that they're putting forth, that if we come with facts, if we come with truth, if we come with knowledge, we can combat that. And I think we need more intellectual warriors at the forefront doing this type of work. So in college, when I was confronted with that situation, I wasn't ready for it. Yeah. But today, absolutely, I'm ready for those things. Yeah. But the good thing, it put me on a path. It put me on a path to start to research, to start to learn. So I came across people like Dr. Neely Fuller, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Dr. Amos Wilson. And that's when I really started to solidify my learning and my knowledge to start to solve this problem.
Okay, great. You know what, with that being said, I wanted to find out, because I know that there are some people who are probably more than likely who are going through the same things. How did that make you feel as a person, as a man, as a Black man, when you were confronted with that, and then you didn't have any answers at the time?
It definitely made me feel inadequate. It felt like I could be doing more that I wasn't doing. Mm-hmm. So I analyzed, what am I spending my time on? What am I looking up on the internet? Yeah. Is this constructive? Is this going to help me in any way? So once I started to reshift what I'm spending my time and my energy focusing on, I felt like I was more equipped. But as a Black man, it was reminiscent to every other situation where people classified as white have themselves in a position where they automatically feel superior to you, and especially in an educational setting, especially in an academy. So once you can challenge the notions that they put forth in an intellectual, articulate way, all of a sudden you're looked at like, whoa, what's going on here? Something's different about this one. But as long as you're following the agenda that they put forth, it's business as usual.
Exactly. So I just wanted to take a moment. For those of you who are just joining us, my name is Kim Seabrooks, and this is Intellectual Chocolate, where we have intelligent conversations with brilliant Black minds. And today I'm speaking with Mr. Abdul Kelly, who is the founder of Solving the Race Problem. And we were just talking about the moment where he was confronted with some things that he wasn't able to address at the time, but now he's more equipped to do that. So now what I wanted to know, now let's get into where you first got the notion to start your program, your organization. When did that moment happen, and what made you want to actually do it the way that you're doing it?
Mm-hmm. I would say that to start this story fully, just walk with me for a second. I started early. My consciousness level was already kind of ingrained within me. My mom, she had us listening to KRS-One and Public Enemy. So, I'm listening to stuff about, fighting the power, and not really at the time understanding what it is.
Yeah.
but getting into a point that I understood it. My dad, he was within the NOI, the Nation of Islam. So I had that backing too, as far as Black consciousness goes. So those things were already ingrained within my psyche at a young age. But I think an African proverb says, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So I wasn't ready for the message then, but once I got old enough to say, okay, now I see what the elders were telling me. Now I see what people were trying to tell me. So having come into a racial understanding, that was, a crucial step. I work within education. I work within schools for the past 5 years. So I've noticed a lot of the racial problems definitely manifest themselves within the school. So I noticed that I've been given certain tools in how to teach, how to communicate, how to make content and instruction engaging, put it in the best way that people can learn it. So those skills that I've picked up as far as teaching, I'm using that in my solving the race problem capacity to teach the fundamentals of race relations that we as Black people specifically need to know and understand if we're serious about changing our reality.
Okay.
So having those bases and having that training, that's what I think set me up for being able to implement something like solving the race problem.
Okay. Okay. You actually answered one of my questions. So I wanted to know, go over, because I was looking at your website and I was looking at some of the workshops that you have. I see you have one that's called Think Tanks. Is that the one where there's like a collaboration that happens?
Yes.
Kind of go into that a little bit.
Okay, the think tank is all of our minds coming together and coming up with solutions. The reason why I do that is because humbly I can admit I don't have all of the answers for how to solve the race problem. I stand on the shoulders of people before me who have put forth their effort. People like Malcolm X, people like Marcus Garvey, Kwame Nkrumah. So all of these powerful minds, Huey P. Newton, that came before me and made their contributions to the race problem. I'm just simply making my contribution. So I humbly tell people there is no magic pill. There is no magic thing that I'm going to tell you that's going to solve this. I can give you suggestions. I can tell you what has worked for me. And I can tell you based on the outline that we've been given from previous thinkers, we can use that as a framework to build on. So the think tank, I use it as an opportunity for people to come through, put their ideas to the forefront, because there are multiple solutions to the same problem. We're all dealing with the problem of race, systematic racism, white supremacy. We're all dealing with that problem. And there's more than one solution on how to dismantle it. So my main point and objective is, if we all come together, we can disagree on the methodology, meaning we can disagree on how to deconstruct racism, white supremacy. This is a think tank. We don't have to agree on how to do it. We just have to agree on the mission. We have to agree on, we are all interested in dismantling systematic racism and replacing it with justice. If we can agree on the goal, how we go about that can be different. And that's the main premise that the think tank is built on. Okay.
Great. You know what? I was actually intrigued by the one where you, it's called Justice Advocates for the Future. This is a workshop that's for 12 to 18-year-olds.
Yes.
Why do you feel it's necessary to get them at that age?
The reason why I think it's necessary to get them at that age, because as I mentioned, I'm a teacher. So within their capacity, I'll give you a quick story. There are situations in which I'll have students in a classroom, Black students. One of them will say to the other one, "You're acting white." So then you can have a situation, well, you're acting white. So that's when I step in, teaching moment. What is he or she doing that's acting white? Well, I don't know. They're acting all smart. They're raising their hand. So wait, if that's acting white, what is acting Black? And then that's when they think that, okay, why am I attributing all of the positive qualities to somebody white and then adversely all of the negative things I'm attributing to somebody acting Black? And then I remind them, you are at the epicenter of civilization. You started mathematics, you started arithmetic, you started reading. So learning and participating in your learning, that is acting black. That's not acting white. So I use that as a teaching moment. So I'm saying that to say I see the problems within education. It just comes in a little bit of a different format. And I think that it's important for them to get the message because they're going to have to deal with it. And had I known what I know when I was 13, 14, 15, I probably would have been on a much different trajectory than I am now. But the main factor is they can still get the information. You can still teach them about race, teach them about racism. You just have to teach it in a way that they understand.
Yeah.
But they're definitely going to get bombarded with it day one in school. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you know, and I feel that that's so necessary because I was watching something actually today. I was watching something where they were showing the little kids who are looking at the white dowels and the black dowels and what they're thinking at that age. I mean, at 5, I mean, they're thinking that the black dowel is bad and the white dowel is good. So it's like, you know, we've really got to get, because this is the things that they're being fed through media and things like that. So yeah, you're right. I mean, we really need to, that's why they're growing up hating themselves. So we really have to get that ingrained in them at an early age. You're absolutely right.
And to your point, a crucial part of that was a monumental psychological test. And to that, I look at it twofold because on one end, you have the self-hate, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
You have the black child going in there hating themselves without even being able to fully construct a sentence as to why. But they've ingrained that self-hate. And on the other end, you have the person classified as white, that white person who has immediately followed suit with the agenda of systematic racism, and they know their role as much as we know our role. And then I always think of the why is that, and how does that happen, and how can we deconstruct that to get our children on the correct path?
Yeah, definitely. Now I wanted to ask you, how is your program set up and who's actually eligible for the program?
Everyone's eligible. It's set up in a format that, as you mentioned, I have the 6 different workshops. It's a overall teaching experience. It's about 90 minutes. There's some group work. There's autonomous work. All of the activities are engaging and educational, and the whole thing is solution based. So I am eventually going to get some virtual workshops, and I can work with your schedule, with people's schedule, if they'd like to do a virtual workshop, but they're generally in person. I do have locations in the Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia area here, but I generally do the workshop at a location that people choose. I've worked with colleges, I've worked with universities. I can work within an organization. If you're doing it as a cultural competency learning piece, I can do those too. But it's the tenets is built on 2 main tenets that on one side of it, we have to know and understand what the problem is. So we have to truly look at the elephant in the room, which is systematic racism, white supremacy. And the highlight is usually not on that when we have conversations about race. And if the conversation is not centered on the major problem within that, we aren't going to have any progress. So on one side of it, we do analyze racism, white supremacy, how it manifests itself, what it is and how it works. We deconstruct that. And on the other end, where it's a little more solution-based, that's when we give our diagnosis, because we have to understand the problem before we can give the diagnosis. So the diagnosis is built on educational and economic empowerment. And I go into specifics about some practical tools that people can use and leave with that they can implement day of. What can you do? And it's not very cliche or just feelings based. Is what can you do to change your reality for not only yourself, but future generations of Black people?
Okay, great. Sounds great. You know, I wanted to ask you, I wanted to ask you because I was reading your website. They have to find their own. They have to have the facility for you to come in and do what you do. Correct.
Generally, yes. That's the situation.
Until you go virtual.
Yes, I can do a virtual. Most of my workshops have been local just because it's being promoted through word of mouth. So I've done just local things, and Most of the times, if it's with a college or university, they have the room
Okay.
to work with. If people do not, and we need to set up a neutral location that we
Okay.
can do it on site, I'm open to doing that. My
Okay.
main thing is coming in, getting the information, making sure everybody has a chance to build and learn and leave with something new that they didn't know before. We can figure out the facility.
Okay.
That's the easy part.
Okay. Okay. Now, how do they gain access, and is there a cost to it?
They gain access by, you can reach me at solvingtheraceproblem.org. You can email me at solvingtheraceproblem@gmail.com.
Okay.
My phone number is also listed on the website. So that's how you gain access to it. And generally, when you reach out to me, I'll ask about what workshop you're interested in having. When would you like it to be? And we set up specifics as far as that. And yes, there is a cost associated with it. Each workshop is $500. That's what I charge for each workshop. I do offer packages if you get more than one workshop, 2 or 3. And if anybody, is one of your listeners reaches out to me, and if you mention, hey, I saw you on the interview on intellectual chocolate, I'll do it at half price because I'm more concerned about getting the information out and helping the people, not, getting rich from it.
Yeah. So you hear that, guys? He's offering a half price if you mentioned that he was on intellectual chocolate. So go check him out at solvingtheraceproblem.org. Solvingtheraceproblem.org. All right. So now, why should someone use your program, and as opposed to someone else's?
Okay. The reason why, well, first of all, I'll say no offense to the competition. If they're doing meaningful work surrounding deconstructing racism, I'm already on board with that. The problem that I find with other workshops is, I ended on my price, so I'll tell you their price. Most of their prices are about 4 times as much as what I charge.
Yeah.
And they don't give you a fraction of what I'm giving you. Most of them don't have any background in teaching. Most of them don't have any credentials to speak on these issues at all.
Yeah.
So being as though I have those things above them and that they do not have, it puts me in a better position to teach and educate the people. They're usually heavily based in assimilation. Not that I have any problems with people deciding to assimilate, but we should look at both paradigms as far as is assimilation and moving into white society and begging them to treat us better. Is that our only option? And do we have other options? And that's what I put on the table. Those conversations usually are not critical of whites. And as I mentioned before, when we're talking about the problem, the elephant in the room is systematic racism.
Yes.
That's the only functional form of racism. Yes. So if we're not being critical of that, again, those conversations are going to become very stagnant, because what I've noticed, I've been in those workshops, I've been in those sessions, and I noticed that as soon as people classified as white start to get uncomfortable about the conversation stops right there. Because they can notice, whoa, white folks are getting uncomfortable. We need to stop here. And that isn't being truthful. It isn't being honest, and it's not being solution based if we're being serious about solving it. There's no practicality. It's usually a lot of cliche, hold people accountable, things like that. You won't really leave with something substantial that you can do. So you'll get the exact opposite.
Exactly.
if you deal with me here, you'll get the exact opposite.
Okay. Now, with that being said, I wanted to ask you, some of us as Blacks are still, and I'm not one of them, are still raising our children and telling them to go to college and get a good job. What are your views on that when it comes to the Black community?
That's a crucial question that I think that we really need to deal with, because, as you mentioned, I am a college graduate. I did get my bachelor's. I do have my master's. Yes. But I'll be the first person to tell you, and anybody listening, that may or may not be your best option.
Yes.
A lot of times you have to look at the whole picture of what going to college entails and why are you going? Because the national retention rate is already 50%. So that means half of the people that are signing up to go drop out. So statistically, either you or your roommate is going to drop out. You're both not going to make it through. So since not everybody is going to graduate, you have to look at how many people are underqualified, meaning how many people are graduating that are not in a position that is aligned with whatever their educational training was. And we're starting to see a more of an overwhelming amount of people in that position, because I think the problem has been, for such a long time, we've been conditioned to think that, okay, you graduate from high school, you go to college, you get a good job, that's how you be successful. When success within the Black community should be using a much different format, because we're not in the same position as other people, nor are we going to get out and get the same jobs that they get. So as I speak with people about college, I would ask them, what is your end goal? If one of your goals is to make a lot of money, I'll tell you that going to college is not the fastest route for that. The fastest route for getting money would be to create a job, not to go to college and fix up your resume real nice and ask somebody for a job. Create a job, create a service, open a business. Those are things that you can do to start to generate faster revenue in real time, and without a majority of the debt that people had with going to college. So I always ask about, well, get good grades, from a school. And what are good grades? And who's to say that the content that you're learning is something that's beneficial to you? Who's to say that you learning about Christopher Columbus or George Washington or George Mason or Stonewall Jackson, that you learning about these people? How is that beneficial to a young Black student? How is that going to change your reality? So you getting good grades and learning about American history. I mean, does that really, their evaluation of your success, does that really mean that you're in a position to help Black people out in whatever we think a good job is? So I think we have to be very critical of those situations and look at them and think, is that going to be our best option? And if you decide as an individual that, yes, I want to do a job that's going to require me to have a college degree, by all means, you should go. But if you're just going to college just to go to college so you can feel like you've reached some level of success, then I would say you're going into it for the wrong reason. So as a Black community, we have to stop attaching success only to college. Like, you can be successful in other areas of your life outside of going to a college, getting into a bunch of debt, and being underqualified at a job.
Exactly. Excellent advice. Now, for those of you who are just joining us, my name is Kim Seabrooks, and this is Intellectual Chocolate, where we have intelligent conversations with brilliant Black minds. And I'm speaking with a brilliant Black mind, Mr. Abdul Kelly, who is the founder of Solving the Race Problem. Now, I wanted to ask you, Abdul, do you feel that when it comes to fighting systematic racism or fighting racism as Black people, are there gender roles, do you think? Is there?
Could you expand on that? What do you mean by that?
When it comes to Black women and Black men, do you feel that a Black man should be the leader and he should do certain things, and the Black woman should do other things when it comes to fighting racism?
I'll say throughout all of the research that I've done, I've seen that Black men and Black women have been in this struggle and in this fight together. Okay. If we are not fighting together, we have no business fighting at all. That doesn't mean that the Black man is in a power position. That doesn't mean that the Black woman is in a power position. That means that we are a cohesive unit that needs to be in this fighting on a united front. As I mentioned, some of the greatest, most conscious scholars, Frances Cress Welsing, Dr. Marimba Ani, Shahrazad Ali, like some of my favorite scholars are women, are powerful sisters. So I listen to them and I revere that women have a lot to offer. I know that a lot of times as Black men, pride and ego can get in the way of letting a woman take lead or interject ideas, but I think that those are patriarchal ideals that we've taken from European society. I don't think that Africans are innately in a position that they try to degrade their women. So within what I'm trying to solve and do, are there specific gender roles for Black men and Black women? Absolutely not. Everybody who has a brilliant Black mind, you can come to the table and I'll be willing to build with you. I'll be willing to hear you out and listen to your ideas, not just say, all right, you're a woman, you need to have a backseat role in this. That's not the way that we're going to be productive. That's not the way that we're going to get anything done. So united front. I'm
Yeah.
that's the team I'm on. I'm on the
Oh
united
yeah.
front team.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Now, you know what? And thank you for that, because I think today I hear a lot of rhetoric on the internet when it comes to the conscious community. And I do hear people saying that Black men should be leading, Black women are leading, and Black men are just sitting in the back. And I hear a lot of that. So I just wanted to know how you felt about us fighting this thing as Black men and Black women. And your thing is, we need to be fighting together and standing
Absolutely.
together. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's not a pride issue as to who's leading or who isn't, because if we get the job done, the credit is we're all going to benefit from it. So it doesn't matter
Exactly.
if the men did it or the women did it,
Exactly.
because, I rely on my wife. She's my partner. We're in this
Yeah.
together, like, both
Yes.
of us side by
Yeah.
side. So I think that if we adopt that same model, because if we're serious about strengthening the Black family, you have
Hmm.
to have the Black man and the Black woman in a
Yes.
united piece to truly build the Black family, which is the first um, thing that we can do to start to deconstruct
Yeah.
systematic racism. So building up
Yeah.
the Black family, having Black men, Black women in it together. I don't see any problems with having strong Black women lead, because strong Black women have led for a very long time, and they have a lot of powerful ideas to bring to the table. And I
Yes.
wouldn't feel any type of way about that.
Yes. Excellent. Excellent. And I just want to say, sorry, ladies, he's married. For those of you who were probably wondering, he's married. Sorry. Now, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your podcast. Your podcast is this. It's solving the race problem as well.
Yes.
Just tell the audience a little bit about your podcast so that they can check
Yeah.
you out.
The podcast is also on my website. If you go to solvingtheraceproblem.org, you go to the Learn More tab. I
Hmm.
included I included a link for my podcast. And the main reason of doing the podcast was I came across people and I'd have conversations similar to what we're doing now. And
Hmm.
people would say, like, you need to talk to people, like, you need to get this message out. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, like, I don't know who would listen to this. Like, nobody wants to talk about race. Like, people don't really like talking about this. Is uncomfortable for a lot of
Yeah.
people. They don't want to talk about it. So, people just, after hearing it for so much and people saying, hey, like, you should get this message out. You should talk to people. You shouldn't just, limit yourself here. And especially with the way the technology and social media has taken off, I've
Yeah.
decided to, try a podcast. There's only a few videos or a few podcasts on there. I'm
Okay.
not the most technologically savvy, but I'm trying to get there, because I look at it like I'm in a position where I've consumed a lot of information. I've shouted out a lot of great scholars, and
Yeah.
I give them all of the respect in the world because they've put me to where I am. So I think that I'm at a point intellectually that I can start to put out my own creative work and throw my intellect into the melting pot, into the
Yeah.
collective pot of Black consciousness, and allowing
Yeah.
somebody to come along in a little bit and build on my work. So that's why I've decided to start putting out my own information, videos, podcasts, and things of that nature.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent.
Mhm.
Now, do you have like a YouTube channel or Instagram or anything like that?
All of those pages are set up. There's not much content on it. I'm
Okay.
still building those as we go, but a
Well,
lot of my content is being put out through the actual workshops itself.
okay. Well, if you do have like an Instagram or Facebook, just because I know after this you're gonna be putting more information on there. You want to give people your handles so
To
that
be
they can
honest, I don't know them off the top of my head, but if you go to, I
Abdul.
apologize. I don't have a personal one, but if you go to my website and you go to the bottom, social media,
Yeah.
and you click on, there's tabs for all of them. I have the pages,
Okay.
I'm trying to
Okay.
get more into the social media thing. I feel like I'm behind,
Yes,
but
you need to
kind of,
do that.
I'm kind of slow on it. Sorry, but
Okay.
the pages are up. They are there. The
Okay.
best place to go, use it as a hub. Go to solvingtheraceproblem.org and
Yeah.
just scroll to the bottom. All of the social media pages
Yeah.
are there.
Okay. All right. Now, this
Mhm.
has been, an excellent conversation.
Yes, ma'am.
I was so excited to interview you. I was so glad that we were able to work it out.
Mm.
What I want to do is give you just a moment to, expound on everything that we just talked about, whatever you want to say to the audience, and you can have the last
Okay.
word, basically.
Well, thank you for having me, and I really appreciate you reaching out and being willing to hear my ideas and hear
Yes.
my thoughts on these things. And I would say that having these types of conversations, I've seen people in this arena, people like Tim Wise, Peggy McIntosh,
Mhm.
Farrah Winfrey. These are people classified as white who have similar talking points to what I have, but they've gained much more notoriety,
Yeah.
which makes me think about a quote from Kwame Ture. If you want to get black people to believe something, tell them that white folks said it, which
Yeah.
I think still holds true
Isn't that
because
funny?
it is, and it's unfortunately true,
Yes.
because there could be a person classified as white saying the very same things that I'm saying, and they would be given much more notoriety than what I'm getting. Even though what I'm coming is solution based, is research based. I
Hmm.
had the same credentials that
Yeah.
they have, if not more. I have much more of a teaching background, stronger, more passion for this too,
Hmm.
and it hasn't gained that notoriety yet. But
Yes.
just saying that because I think that a lot of times um, we have to use our capability, use our understanding to do something that's important, to do something that matters. And what
Yes.
matters right now is dealing with the major problem that's affecting all other world problems. So if you look at any major world problem, there's always going to be a racial element.
Yes.
Most, if not all, major world problems have some type of racial element. And until we deal with that racial element, that race problem, it'll be nearly impossible to solve all other world problems. So
Yes.
whether you're looking at economics, you'll see a race issue. In education, in entertainment, in labor, in
Yes.
law, in politics, in religion, in
Yes.
sex, in war, in healthcare, in
Yes.
mass incarceration, in housing. All of these problems and all of these areas that people are operating in and doing activities and living and doing things, you will find a racial element. So we have
Yes.
to understand that racism is a system, and we have to understand that there are ways to deconstruct it, because racism is a system put together by people. So anything
Yes.
put together by people can be
Can be
taken apart
taken
by
out.
people
Yes.
logically. So I've had conversations with people and they've said, you crazy, you can't solve a race problem. Racism is always going to be here, so get used
Yeah.
to it. And I don't think that that's true. I
Yeah.
think that if we implement pillars of economic and educational black empowerment, we can start to change our reality.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I love
Thank
that.
you.
This has been so great. Now, I just want to tell everybody, uh, my name is Kim Seabrooks. This is Intellectual Chocolate. This is where we have intelligent conversations with brilliant Black minds. And I've been talking to Mr. Abdul Kelly, who is the founder of Solving the Race Problem. He's his website is solvingtheraceproblem.org. Please go check him out, because this brother has so much to offer. He's deep, and I believe that he's going to be one of our great leaders. So please go check him out. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Abdul, for doing this for me and coming here today. Um,
And
Maybe we can do this again. If you have something else to say, go ahead.
yeah, yeah, no, I do, and I appreciate you having me, because this is a great platform to get the ideas out there into the forefront.
Yes.
And giving me the title as the next great black leader, that is a profound thing to put on me. My only twist on that is, if you're looking for a great black leader, look in the mirror. That's your first great black leader. The
Yeah.
next one, if you want to find somebody who's giving you something constructive that you can do that'll make sense, I'm
Yes.
definitely the person for that. So
Yes.
I wanted to end with an African proverb.
Go ahead.
Is I'm paraphrasing, but just because you cover your eyes doesn't mean the sun disappears. Just
Yeah.
because you cover your eyes doesn't mean the sun disappears, which is essentially saying that just because you ignore what I'm talking about, the race problem,
Yes.
and you want to say, well, it's not affecting me. I got a job. I got a car. Everything's okay in my life. No,
Yes.
nobody's being racist to me. Just
Yeah.
because you've been allowed to gain certain things, certain luxuries within your lifetime, doesn't mean that the average everyday Black person isn't experiencing a world of pain. So we have to have more of a collective mindset. We've been very individualized and just looking out for ourselves, when we have to think about the whole as a Black community, because as the Black community goes, we go.
Yes, definitely. Excellent. Excellent. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you again so much for
Yes, ma'am.
joining us. Thank you everyone for joining us at Intellectual Chocolate. Now, if you know anyone that has anything brilliant to say, go to intellectualchocolate.com and sign up. All right, Abdul, thank you so much.
Yes,
And
ma'am. Thank
have
you
a
for
great
having me.
evening. And
I
tell your
appreciate
wife
it.
hello.
All right, I will.
Viewers. All right.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate you having me. Thank
You're
you.
so welcome. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.